Sometimes I like to think about the old heads, the old hammer. There really are whimsical things that just come from that. There's just weird, funny stuff. Some stuff that got removed, like the squats, or um, old lore that seems to surface here and now again. But 40K is at its worst. I hate it. I hate this direction it's taking. It's just there used to be this grand binding of lore that just attached everything. No matter what happens, the lore was in charge. Okay, you have to understand here. There are three aspects of 40K. The first one I would consider being the lore, and everything else follows. Okay, and so then you have the hobbying side. Okay, painting's cool. My friend did a great job with this little Lehman Russ. It's a fine little model, and he didn't do that much to it. It just looks so nice. And there's another thing that I'm really into, which is converting. This is Trenchfoot, my Chaos Knight. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I'll have to find some way to give you better pictures of it, but I had so much fun putting this guy together. It was magnanimous, okay? And really, everyone's collected toys before, and what makes these toys special is they fight and kill each other. And there are rules to support that. So, your toy collection isn't just the toy collection isn't just inert. Relearn 7th edition. I will. I guess I could get to the solution right now. I think the best solution for new 40K, old 40K, whatever. If you want to play 40K and get the best experience and still play something that's supported, go to Forge World, go to Horus Heresy. They're still using 7th edition rules. I don't think they ever got the formation. The downside is going to be that you have to use Forge World's prices and Forge World's resins. I hate Forge World models for those two reasons. They're highly detailed, maybe a little more than you need an entire army to be. I mean, all those extra little niches and details. It does add an extra level of craftsmanship when you're trying to paint something, but the resins suck. They bend and they break and they snap. If you have a guy with a sword, forget about it. Just forget about it. When it gets that thin, the best you can hope for is it curling like this. The worst is, and this happens to me plenty of times, is it breaks in transit. And I have dedicated foam for my models. Am I the most careful with my storage and moving around? Probably not, but I made an effort there. But okay, so that was all the downside. If I didn't scare you off yet, it's still supported. It's not super competitive as far as I know. I saw a Horus Heresy scene up in Tacoma back around 2015, and there was a meta there, but it was like Terminator's really good. Like it reminded me so much of my high school years when it was the meta wasn't so highly defined that you're just like sectioning off and just ripping out pages of the codex. And there's kind of this like beauty to the symmetric warfare side of Astartes fighting Astartes. I mean, those battles in the books are so cool, and you don't see like too much variance, and that's kind of nice for some reason. There's a reason to have Space Marines in a game made for Space Marines. Can you imagine that? Imagine that. It brings me back to the times. They're not really so much mech armies, MEQ Marines and their equivalents, where you're loading 5 guys, 10 guys with special weapons into a rhino and sitting them up just so they can pop out. They have what makes the Marines viable in that game is the bolter drill. They get to once a game they get to fire like 3 shots, and I don't know, it's cool. And for the asymmetric side of it, when I was really stopped watching the Horus Heresy, they had demons that could come on the battlefield. The Word Bearers, one of my least favorite factions, which I might have to play. They can bring demons on the field, so it's almost like having a faction no one else has. There are some really cool ones. The Mechanicus have like Ortonatus engines. Beijing. So like, yeah, maybe that can work out like that. I hope. I don't really have any qualms with I I want to keep my channel. Um, I don't have any qualms with them ripping off. I mean, I do have qualms with Chinese ripping people off. Did you know Segway doesn't sell Segways anymore? Because now a company over there has them. But it's still somehow less malicious than GW. It's still somehow so much less than what GW is doing. So I'm fine with stabbing them in the back. And maybe there's some place to go to get these miniatures I'm talking about and acquire them. And maybe it'll be better plastic. There's the 3D printing route, but you know, I've had that on my mind. I mean, I do like the Lego sort of snap together of converting converting pieces, taking a bunch of different things. But I do also think that I would have fun just sitting still and deciding what to make with a 3D printer. However, as of like two or 3 years ago, I was kind of looking into this. Printers are good for terrain. They're okay for vehicles, and they're bad for infantry. They're just awful because there's like these like lines that get left in the resin or whatever it is. They're just not. It's not good. But there are expensive ones out there, and I guess you would have to just have a quota of how. If I got a 3D printer that was good, I would have to sit down, look at how much the printer costs, and then look at all the units that I'm going to make, and like stick with that. But I mean, I don't know. That's really kind of presumptuous. I have a huge backlog. I have the neighbor's kid and my neighbor all working to paint my models for me, and I'll never be finished. So, but why is it that we are trying to go back to 7th? I mean, I really do like the play style of 7th. 6 was really similar to 7th. I like Overwatch. I like the psychic phase. I liked summoning demons. That was so freaking cool. One time, this guy challenged me to a tank battle, and you know what? Maybe I was just being dumb, but I accepted. And you know what I brought there? I brought my tanks. These are my tanks. It doesn't have a turret on it. It's a Torox. And what was in the Torox? Guardsmen. And what was in some of the Toroxes? Psyker battle squads. And so back then, you could have demons summon demons, and that was pretty good. But you could also take an extreme risk, and any faction could summon them. So you just get the cheapest psychers in the game. And it was such a fun battle because I would just spawn these Seekers of Slanesh and Plague Bearers and just send them up, and they would get blasted the whole time. But while my front line of exposable demons is getting blasted to Kingdom Come, my troops are moving up with their special weapons in the windows to shoot down on the enemy tanks. And so there was a lot of greatness in 7th. Things got dark though. 7th was the beginning of the end. Okay, you have these you have these formations. All right, that's when you start seeing these formations. So basically, if I have 5 tanks and an engine seer and a master of the ordnance or some wacky combination like that, suddenly the tank can shoot twice, or now the tank shot doesn't miss. Like these crazy special rules came out. Another distraction is they just didn't make use of the universal special rules. Everything just ended up, it got to the point where every unit almost had its own special rule, and that was towards the end of things. They were really experimenting. You can see a lot with the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex that came out towards the latter end of 7th, and right when the formations came out. I mean, I got mad at my buddy because he could not remember the names of anything. He's like, I'm going to shoot you with, and he was a new player, and he would have to look at his book, and it would take him like 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, so roll the dice. He's like, what? I'm like, what are you going to roll? So whatever. Actually, it wasn't on him though. It was so complex. But honestly, I can kind of understand why a Mechanicus army would be so technical. It kind of fits the theme. But It's the tournaments. It's those dang gone tournaments that gave everyone the initiative to just start buying into these formations. I don't like the tournaments. I don't like the meta, okay? And here's why, all right? It just, things get so dark. You run into a lot of Eldar players, all right? Whenever, you know, the meta's really going full tilt when the Eldar players come out and dust off their grav tanks. I mean, there's the common Eldar transport thing has a shield that can protect it. I think, like, was it on 2 or 3 up? It's better than an invulnerable save, because whenever they want, they can shoot it like a Lances. They can shoot their shield at someone, and it's a crazies. But go ahead and ask the Eldar. Go ahead and ask the Eldar players about the lore, and I think I don't think you're gonna get a lot from them. I don't think you're gonna get a whole lot from them, to be honest. I don't think they know how warp spiders jump in and out. I don't think they know what a Farseer is, and I just don't think they know. And that's okay, because, you know, as I talked about, there's the lore side, there's the hobbying side. I didn't get to the game side, all right? The game side kind of, the 2 other things kind of give the game side context. But now the players don't even know the rules. They don't even know the rules. All of 8th edition, even towards the end of 8th edition, for me, I was looking at my stupid phone. I was looking at the stupid phone from a third party that compiles the rules for you. So, I mean, I would be asking people, well, where did you read that? Can you show me that? And they'd say it's in the app. And it got to be so clandestine that basically there was like a council of idiots that knew the most about 40K, and they would make calls. I mean, it was really bad. I'm gonna moan, but this guy's wife, clearly, I don't know, maybe she painted the army, maybe she didn't, but I played her in a tournament, and she did the dirtiest thing. She did the dirtiest thing and got away with it. It was totally illegal because no one knew the rules. Back then, you could buy like, or you could purchase a like an imperial building or something, right? And I think it only told you how many tiles it could have. It was super cheap. It was like 50, 60 points, maybe less. She had like 3 flying hive tyrants and 6 flying carnifexes, which I think is a thing. Or no, maybe they came out in pods. Whatever. She had like an entire army, like 6 or 9 monstrous creatures behind this wall. And on the first turn, I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot at them. And she's like, you can't do that. They're flying. I'm like, no, I can do that. She's like, you cannot shoot blast weapons at flying things. I'm like, correct, but they start the game not flying. She's like, you can't see them. I'm like, I can see them. She's like, no, you can't. I'm like, I see the wing. I see the wing right there. Would you want to come over here? That's irrevocable. And so, you know, if you can see any point, as long as I can see that point in the model, I can put the pie plate there, and they would have all been hit. And you know what? It wouldn't have won me the game. It wouldn't have won me the game. I'm telling you that. Her army was so much better than mine. I'm not complaining about that. But the ref came over, and he brought up some fifth edition rule about how banners and wings. I remember the rule. Hey, you got it right. You are right on the money. Give this guy a medal. We're not saying it out loud. It was just such a soulless take, just absolutely bereft, just absolutely meta, off the rails, and that's really, we have ourselves to blame for this. We have ourselves to blame for this. I mean, even it's degraded to the point that even these one-off games that they're just bursting with flavor are just like, I mean, I don't know. It's, you know, so you have Blood Bowl, right? I don't talk about fantasy too much. The races in fantasy are just as vehement at each other as the races in 40K, maybe more so. I mean, they, I don't know. They hate each other just as much. And so, how is it that all these players could get on a team and have more or less good sportsmanship and go against another team of a different race? I mean, the game itself is definitely a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's fun. It's part of the fun of Warhammer. To kind of just maybe make some sort of dumb answer and roll with it for whatever. I don't know. The questions are what I like. And so I was, and once again, I'm representing people that aren't camera, so I can't give you an unbiased representation of the response, but I didn't get a whole lot. I did not get a whole lot from these fellers. They're good at painting, you know, because you got to paint to be legal now, I'm pretty sure. But I guess another factor here, and I'm one of the players to blame for this. Was the end times of fantasy. See, fantasy, it was always something that I was interested in. I just couldn't get into a whole nother hobby. Like I have a one-track mind, and so all the creativity that I had, I just channel into this stuff. Like that's just kind of how I am. I'm sure there's a medical term for that. So anyways, like there's these awesome not formations, because I already used that word, but like they fight in battalions. I think that's what they're called. So they actually fight rank by rank by rank. And so, you know, you have to move your models in kind of like in this like sweeping line instead of just like these individual squads taking cover and stuff. And you know, there's something romantic about it. To be honest, probably wasn't going to get into it. It seemed just a little more technical. It just seemed one more step of technicality over 40K. And Games Workshop realized this. They knew that I wouldn't get into it, that I was spending all my money in 40K. So the end times happened. And the reason I'm blaming myself is I cheered on the end times. I mean, this guy is mostly an end times model. He's spliced with a Titan, or sorry, a Knight, even though you can call him, you know what? The focus is just bad. Trenchfoot. Anyways, they just came out with some awesome, cool models. And Nurgle got to pretty much be the Undertaker of the end times. So for once, the story progressed. For once, the story moved on and took a step forward. And it was essentially, I don't know, Chaos got its way. I mean, Chaos never wins. Chaos doesn't want to win because there's no structure there. When Chaos wins, it's the end of the universe. They would rather keep playing the game for as long as possible. I mean, no single Chaos god would say, yeah, let's keep it going on. But as a consensus, that's not really what they want. I have a great book about the end times. I'm going to get to it. It deals with Queek. He is a Skaven warlord, and the Skaven were the shock troops in the fight against the realm of man. And you know, they'd been festering beneath. Well, actually, more of the dwarves, really. I think they did an Altdorf, the big human city. I don't know. I'm not too, but they fight the dwarves, and they make the dwarves go extinct. And the leader of this faction of Skaven is the Queek Headtaker. And the reason he's called Queek Headtaker is he has a rack on his back, and he puts the heads of his defeated foes on the back, and they whisper all their secrets to him, how to defeat any sort of enemy. And it's just cool lore. They came out with a bounty of fantastic lore, and so I cheered on the end times. But what came next was awful, just god awful. So the Galaxy Archeon, okay, yeah, the Archeon, basically the Chaos Gods wanted to undo everything, and then they were like, so they chose a champion, Archeon, and Archeon did everything he needed to. There was like a ritual or something, and the gods realized all together that if they got their way, the universe, everything would be gone, every single thing, and they had a moment of hesitation. They sent their mightiest champions to stop Archeon from completing the ritual, and Archeon did it. Everything everywhere was lost. And that's how you can kind of tell that there are multiple iterations of the gods, and that fantasy did and didn't exist within the 40K universe. That could be a whole nother video. But it didn't matter. Sigmar just made everything. I'm not even really sure who Sigmar is. I think he's some sort of emperor, like I think he's more powerful than the Emperor. He's some sort of human deity. And so he remade everything, and he gave the Skaven their own lands, and the Dwarves their own lands, and the humans their own lands, and it just became like Friendship Land. And they came out with the Stormcast Eternals. And there's just such a striking resemblance between the Eternals and the Primaris Marines, just both. And they're like happy-go-lucky aesthetic, and yeah, I mean, guys, that's really it. They just, I mean, people have converted so many of these Stormcast Eternals become Primaris Marines. I'm so sick of those boots, those hooker boots that the Eternals wear. I've seen it in so many conversions. I just so Fantasy became Sigmar, which is basically like 40k light. Instead of having these movements of troops that move together, now you just have like I'm fairly certain that there is no squad cohesion, or at least there wasn't. I don't know. And you can tell that Games Workshop is just being experimenting at this point. Like they're introducing rules that if you have a beard, your Flying Griffin Knight gets more on the charge, and there's other rules that if you say poo poo pee pee, you're going to get another bonus. And I don't know. It's if you want to see what's going to happen to 40k, look at Age of Sigmar. Just look at that. It's a testing grounds. It's not even a real game. It's more of this like menagerie of rules and dynamics that are just being kind of thrown out there to see how well people take it. And I don't know. I guess I just want to relive those high school years. I can tell you my favorite. It was there was three of us, just three players, and we had a meager budget. And so once somebody got a large blast weapon, you know, we all had to start getting them. There was the shock attack gun, and that thing was so funny. It was so fun. I mean, dude, that thing would eliminate entire movements of infantry. But it also could send the Psyker up there. It could incinerate everyone. And so I had to get a Barbed Strangler. My buddy had to get I think a Defiler, which was the scariest thing ever. I remember fighting the Defiler for the first time, and it was crawling up to me over this mountain. And my troops, like everyone fired everything they could at it. And you know what happened? It just kept rolling, weapon destroyed. But even then, dude, even with all its limbs blasted off, it still had 4 more walking limbs that it came to terrorize, rip my men apart. And you can still have these moments, but I think when Warhammer really worked out great for me, it was just this almost 3-way like kind of split of us all trying to balance power. It was almost like the Chaos Gods, trying to keep it. But you know, I think adult budgets just really just make the game fickle. I mean, even me, I'm you know, I talk so much crap on those meta players. I used to be the Plague Marine guy. All right, I have those little heroic scale Plague Marines. To me, are just so fantastic. So I have so many memories of them just marching in squads of 7 through cities, getting shot at by all these guardsmen. But the guardsmen have to roll 6, so they have to roll 4 to hit, 6 to wound, then my guys get a 3 or higher to save, and then feel no pain. And so they were just these walking suits of armor. And I was the Plague Marine guy after I stopped being the Tyranid guy. And I was so quick to just usher out all the Plague Marines out of my army once 8th edition came in. My army became a demon army because demons were just so much, well, they were cooler, and they were better, and they were more resilient, and just everything about them was better. Playing Plague Marines in 8th was dumb. It was just, why would you? They just get squished like bugs. They're just expensive, and the prices for them, it started at like 21 points at the beginning of 8th, and it dropped down to 14 points. So you tell me if they should have started off at 14 or at 21, and how many years did they get gypped? And even at 14, they were not viable. You know what was viable? Cultists. The cultists just basically outshined Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Space Marine armies. They outshined Plague Marines and Plague Marine armies, and the cultists cost 5 points. Okay, the Imperial Guardsman cost 5 points, but he has a lasgun, he has better armor, he has orders. The list goes on. You can and so you're essentially just like trying to copy the Imperials. And I guess really the death knell for this game, and I hate to say it because this was such a cool concept. I think when I saw it first in 6th edition was the Allies idea. All right, like you know, who didn't want to see Chaos Marines fighting alongside demons? Why was there such a differentiation in the Codex? But you had this Matrix grid, and the first one in 6th was preposterous because it put Tau and Ultramarines as battle brothers. I mean, the Democles Gulf Crusade was just a friendly bonding session, I guess. And The 7th edition one, or maybe it was the 8th, the Dark Eldar and the Eldar both, they were battle brothers. They were battle brothers, and so you had like these people that would steal these other people's souls as soon as they could. They're fighting together for some reason. I blame Frontline Games. Oh yeah. I blame Frontline Games and ITC tourney rules. I thought you were saying you liked them. I was formulating some reason to say I disagree with you, but leave the channel. GW took a. Oh gosh. So you're saying 9th is kind of just like adopting ITC. ITC was another thing, dude. It the way it's written is so technical and soulless that you have no clue what's going to happen until you play a battle, and you're like, well, I wish I like. You understand the rules, you understand all the little mechanics, but you don't understand how they go together. I threw a fit once. I'm upset. I really look back on this, and I could have been a better sports about this. We were playing an apocalypse game, and I think we each were able to bring like 3,000 or 6,000 points. It was somewhere up there. So this isn't Trenchfoot is not my only creation, and so I had an entire battle line of little knights to go forward and fight against actual titans. And one of my freakish creations actually ended up getting the death shot on it, and it was fun. So Chaos was moving across the board with this army of knights, and there were my plague guys, and I think. Oh yeah, there were Iron Warriors in the center, and the Iron Warrior guy, he was the captain. He was the captain of the team. So he told me, "Okay, we have to get to the objective." And I was like, "Cool." And throughout the game, he's like, "Okay, be careful with your command points." And I was like, "I mean, yeah, sure." And in order to get to these objectives, we had to get an infantry model up there and spend 3 CP to capture it. That's what the rule was. And you know what? I overlooked it. I should have delved a little deeper. It was in the print. The captain didn't really tell me any of that. That would have been the first thing I let everyone on the team know, what, how to win. And I threw a fit. I was like, you know what? This is what happens when you ally with Iron Warriors. Like I said, I wasn't even joking. Like I was so mad. And so that I can gladly say 9th edition probably won't be for me. I don't know why GW feels this need to. Okay, no, I know why. I know exactly why. Okay, and I'm gonna get to the good old time. The good old times. All right, in the good old times, you wanted more lore, more rules, whatever. Like you'd have a codex release every 3 to 6 months, or maybe like two or three times a year. And so on the downside, you have quite a few factions with outdated codexes. But I mean, the Dark Eldar were kicking around, and you could figure out how to fit 18 Dark Lances into a 1,500 point game. And so they had a really old codex, but they got grandfathered in 18 Dark Lances in a 1,500 point game, which is, I think it's comparable to having 18 las cannons. And so you'd be waiting on these releases, and it got to the point where I knew pretty much everything. It wasn't a huge surprise when I could look at the table and I would know what's in front of me, either by the shape or whatever. It's you could, any commander could pretty much size up of another foe without. Well, actually, I knew. Well, you'd know all the rules, but basically, so when a new codex would come out, like the Space Wolves, you would just like have to intensely study them. It was just like this moment of like curiosity. I never got a taste of Dark Angels. At my heyday, I had bikers. I really love bikers. They just never got enough love. I think it's just because the models weren't very readily available. But I always really was envious of the Dark Angels double plasma gun bike thing, and I don't even think it overheats. And I mean, of course, there was meta back then. I was such a bitch. I was such a bitch in 5th edition. I would use the Lash of Slanesh to whip everything together. Like, I don't know. Like, so you could move enemy units so that you could compact them And I know why they got rid of this rule, mainly because you don't want other people touching your models. So you scrunch them up, you compact them, and then you have the Vindicators come up and blow them to smithereens. I'm not going to say that the meta wasn't always there. I'm not going to say there wasn't always meta, but it just and back then there was such a grand adherence to the universal special rules that you could the lash of submission, my friend. I will say to this day that it is the most powerful psychic power in any iteration of the game, whether it be role playing, video game, on a table. It was evil. It was evil. Thank you, Slanesh. Thank you for the gift, because you made me piss off so many people with that. And people did it back to me. It sucked. It really sucked. It wasn't fun, but it was fun to do it to other people. But they just started releasing like so much stuff all the time. The releases came out like so regularly. At first it was lore. At first it was like the codexes, and then with the models to follow. And it was so hard to stay on top of. Like you would have to study your opponent's codex for some time, I think, before the battle even started. So this gets to this this weird thing where no one even goes on. So in 8th edition, in order, if you want to play a game, you've got to have you've got to have the main rule book. Okay, you got to have chapter approved. Chapter approved. You have to have a codex. Okay, and this is just for one codex army. All right, a lot of people have 2 codex armies, so we're going to throw another codex in there. All right, then you have to have the facts, so the FAQs. So there could be just tack on 2 more. So in order to play one game of Warhammer 40,000, you would have to know 6 different books. Okay, six different books, and these, they range from textbook size to magazine size. And most of the time, the information is just spread out. GW, they design their stuff. I don't blame them, so that you can't just take a snapshot of the book and get an impression of the whole army. I didn't really. Oh yeah, Psychic Awakening. It's an expansion. And there was an 8th. Okay. Oh, you're getting me on. You're riling me up. The big promise for 8th is that you wouldn't have to have a library. Okay, you could just open the pamphlet, which had all the rules in it, which I thought was just outstanding. All the rules in a pamphlet. Oh my gosh, it was just a little 6-sided thing. And then you have the indexes, and the indexes were so cool. They're pretty light on the lore. The codexes, that's part of half the reason why you buy it. But you could have just multiple Xenos races on one, multiple Chaos factions on one, and so it's just, you need 2 resources: the pamphlet and the index. But you know what? That was a lie from the get-go. You can't even start a battle with the pamphlet. You need the rule book. You need the rule book to know where like the starting positions are. You need the rule book to know what the objectives are. You need the rule book to know what the cover does. And cover in 8th was so bad. It was the worst iteration ever. I think cover worked so good in almost every other iteration. That is, a guardsman. Like if you see the guys downrange nowadays, like they're not just standing there with their armor like, hit me. They're taking cover. They're like, they're not relying on their armor to save them, and that translated so well on the tabletop, because it gave armies a reason to take cover, even if they weren't Imperial Guardsmen. Space Marines could benefit from it, very much so the same. And you kind of needed now to have like a base underneath the cover, and things just get worse from here. It was so terribly explained that in the main rule book, like what does what exactly, most people just forego it. Most people just forewent cover. They didn't even use it. They moved around it because it slowed down your guys. And so you just it's almost like a mosh pit. Like no, they look like StarCraft armies where the models just start clipping into each other and walking, and you just have these hordes just smacking in, and it's preposterous. Whoever's up front, gets blown away. It used to be like I don't know. It used to be you wanted to be aggressive. You wanted to get whatever you could up there as soon as possible, and just. But now, like that, if you send your forces up to the enemy, they're gonna get shot at. They're gonna get overwatched at, and best case scenario, if they win, they're just gonna stand there as the entire enemy army blasting the smithereens. And that's what it devolved to. But the worst thing in Warhammer I've ever seen, the worst thing is how they ended up tackling cover by the end of the game. Okay, so I mean, okay, I'm not. It'd be better if I had some infantry. I guess. Okay. So Leman Russ battle tank, right? And let's just pretend. Yeah. So I have an infantry model here, just a little plague bearer. He's behind a wall. The tank cannot see him. Okay. He can see though this champion of this herald of Nurgle. Okay, he can see the Nurgle. So you have line of sight from here to here, but no line of sight from here to here. Because this guy isn't a character and he's closer, you can't shoot at this guy. Okay, even though he's behind a wall, you can't shoot at this guy. So the tank just has to sit there and act stupid. You could shoot something else, but it was so dumb. And then to make things worse, and I don't know why. I don't know who asked for this. You couldn't even see through the bottom floor of a building. The bottom floor of a building was opaque somehow. I mean, I don't know why this rule would be included, because if you wanted that, you could just board up all the windows on your model, or just not use any of the models. Sorry, any of the window walls in the ruins. It clearly just feels like GW is trying to follow someone who's calling the shots, and they're just ruined. They don't understand anything of it, except that if they change stuff up enough, people are gonna buy things. And I don't know. I feel like if there's anything you want to throw in there, man, that'd be great, because I'm kind of losing steam here. I love this game, and I just encourage people to read the old lore. Don't read the new stuff. I mean, I bought the Indomitus Crusade book, and it was like one of the first. It was the only one I bought in 8th, and it's just so soulless. It's just like, and did these guys go fighting? And did these guys go fighting? All the magic. I mean, okay, there was some crazy cool artwork. There was some crazy cool artwork, man. But I don't know. Return to tradition.